The widow was called ugly for wearing a mask. What was behind it left them speechless. The wind moved slowly across Dustfall Ridge, carrying fine red sand that glowed faintly under the twin suns. The frontier colony stood on the edge of known space, where technology met old cowboy traditions. Metal buildings stood beside wooden fences, and riders crossed the plains on bioengineered horses while drones watched the sky above. People here were tough. They had to be. Alien storms arrived without warning, and raiders sometimes crossed the borders looking for supplies or trouble. Yet nothing made the townsfolk whisper more than the quiet widow who always wore a mask. Her name was Mara, though most people did not use it. They called her the masked woman or worse things when she passed by. Some said she hid scars. Others believed she was dangerous or cursed. Children stared at her but were quickly pulled away by their parents. She walked through the town every morning, moving calmly, her long coat flowing behind her. The mask covering her face was smooth and silver, shaped carefully to hide every feature. Small lines of faint blue light ran across it, glowing softly like distant stars. Nobody knew where she came from, nobody knew why she stayed, and many believed she was ugly beneath the mask. At the edge of town, Sheriff Cade watched her from the porch of his office. He leaned against the wooden rail, hat low over his eyes, observing quietly. Cade had once been a space ranger, traveling across dangerous systems, but he had chosen a simpler life in Dustfall Ridge after too many battles. He did not believe rumors easily. He watched how Mara moved, slow, steady, aware of everything around her. She walked like someone trained for survival, not someone hiding from the world. "She gives me bad feelings," said Tomlin, the mechanic, standing nearby. Cade shrugged. "Bad feelings ain't proof of anything." "She never shows her face," Tomlin insisted. "That ain't normal." Cade said nothing. In his experience, normal was a rare thing on the frontier. Mara stopped near the market stalls, placing small packages quietly beside a family struggling to sell broken farming equipment. She didn't wait for thanks. She simply walked away. Cade noticed that too. The town saw mystery. He saw kindness hidden behind silence. Later that afternoon, the sky darkened as an approaching sandstorm turned the horizon into a wall of red dust. Warning alarms rang through the colony. Settlers rushed to secure their homes and animals. A young boy tripped near the main street, frightened and alone. Before anyone else could reach him, Mara appeared, lifting him gently and guiding him toward shelter. Her movements were careful, protective. The boy stopped crying almost immediately. Even through the mask, something about her presence felt calm. Cade watched from a distance, curiosity growing. When the storm hit, it arrived with roaring wind and electric flashes that danced across the sky. Energy storms were common here, capable of damaging machines and confusing navigation systems. Inside the saloon, settlers gathered to wait out the storm. Conversations filled the room, but whenever Mara entered, voices lowered. Two traders sitting near the bar laughed quietly. "Maybe she hides because she looks like a monster," one said. "Or maybe she ain't human," the other replied. Their laughter spread uncomfortably. Mara ignored them, sitting alone near the window. Cade approached slowly and took the seat beside her. "Storm's strong today," he said casually. She nodded once. Her voice when she spoke was soft but clear. "They always are." There was no anger in her tone, only calm distance. Cade noticed faint scratches on her gloves, signs of work and repair. She wasn't just surviving here, she was helping keep things running. "People talk too much," he said after a moment. "That is their nature," she replied simply. Outside, lightning flashed again, causing the lights inside to flicker. For a brief second, the blue lines on her mask glowed brighter, forming strange patterns that Cade had never seen before. Symbols, ancient-looking, alien. He said nothing but remembered every detail. When the storm passed hours later, the town stepped outside to check for damage. One of the communication towers had fallen, cutting off long-distance signals. Without hesitation, Mara walked toward it with tools in hand. Most settlers hesitated, but Cade followed. She climbed the structure with surprising agility, working quickly despite strong winds. Sparks flew as she repaired circuits. Within minutes, the tower restarted. A cheer rose from below. Mara climbed down without accepting praise and began walking away. "Why help people who treat you badly?" Cade asked quietly. She paused but did not turn around. "Because kindness should not depend on approval," she said. Her words stayed with him long after she disappeared down the road. That night, strange signals appeared in the sky, faint lights moving in patterns no one recognized. The colony's scanners struggled to identify them. Cade stood outside, watching. Behind him, a faint humming sound came from Mara's direction. He turned just in time to see her mask project a brief holographic pattern, glowing symbols spinning like a warning. She looked up at the sky, tense for the first time. "What is coming?" he asked. She hesitated, then she spoke quietly. "They have found me." Before he could ask more, the projection vanished, and she walked away into the darkness, leaving Cade staring at the stars with a growing sense that Dustfall Ridge was about to change forever. The twin suns rose slowly over Dustfall Ridge, painting the red plains with golden light. The town looked peaceful from a distance, but Sheriff Cade knew something had changed. The strange signals from the sky had not disappeared. They were still there, faint but steady, like eyes watching from far away. People moved through their daily routines, but fear sat quietly in their thoughts. Mara walked through the town as usual, her silver mask reflecting the morning light. Some settlers stepped aside as she passed. Others watched with curiosity mixed with distrust. The rumors about her had grown stronger after the storm. "They have found me." Those words repeated inside Cade's mind. He stood outside the sheriff's office, watching her carefully. He had seen many dangerous things during his time as a space ranger, and instinct told him that trouble was coming not just for her but for everyone. He decided it was time to learn the truth. "Mara," he called. She stopped but did not turn immediately. After a moment she faced him, standing calm and still. "We need to talk," he said gently. She hesitated, then nodded. They walked toward the edge of town where the land opened into wide plains. Wind moved softly through dry grass, and distant mechanical ranch drones moved slowly across fields. "You said someone found you," Cade began. "That makes me think whatever is coming isn't random." Mara remained silent for a long time. "I never meant to bring danger here," she finally said. "This place was supposed to be safe." "Safe from what?" Cade asked. She looked toward the horizon. Even through the mask, he could feel her sadness. "From my past." Before she could say more, an alarm sounded across town. A sharp, urgent tone that meant only one thing: incoming threat. Cade turned toward the sky. 3 dark shapes moved through the clouds, descending fast, not trading ships, not settlers, raiders. Dustfall Ridge had faced raiders before, but these ships looked different, sleek, silent, and far more advanced. People ran for cover as defense drones activated, rising into the air like metal birds. "Stay here," Cade said, reaching for his weapon. But Mara stepped forward instead. "I will help," she said quietly. The ships landed outside town, kicking up massive waves of dust. Armored figures stepped out, moving with mechanical precision. Their armor shimmered with alien design, glowing faintly in the sunlight. They were not ordinary raiders. Cade felt a chill. The first shots rang out as defense turrets fired. Chaos filled the air. Settlers took cover behind buildings while drones exchanged fire with the attackers. One raider moved quickly toward a group of trapped civilians. Before Cade could react, Mara moved. Her speed surprised him. She crossed the distance like flowing wind, placing herself between the raider and the civilians. With a simple movement of her hand, a brief flash of blue energy pushed the attacker backward. The crowd gasped. She fought without anger, only precision. Each movement controlled, each action protective rather than aggressive. Cade joined the fight, covering her from behind. "Not bad for someone hiding behind a mask," he said lightly, even as blaster fire lit the air around them. "I prefer peaceful solutions," she replied. Together they pushed the raiders back. After several tense minutes, the attackers retreated to their ships and lifted off, disappearing into the sky as quickly as they had arrived. Silence fell over Dustfall Ridge. People stared at Mara with new expressions: shock, confusion, and growing respect. "You saw that?" someone whispered. "She saved them." But others still looked afraid. Cade walked beside her as she returned toward town. "You could have stayed hidden," he said. "Yes," she replied. "Why didn't you?" She paused. "Because this is my home now." Later, inside the sheriff's office, Cade poured 2 cups of water. He placed one near her. "I need to understand," he said. "Those weren't normal raiders." "No," she said softly. "They were searching." "For you," she nodded. He leaned back, waiting patiently. "I was once part of a protector unit," she said slowly. "Not fully human, not fully alien, created during a long war to defend against threats too powerful for ordinary soldiers." Cade listened carefully. My abilities come from that past, she continued, but they are dangerous. The mask helps control the energy. Without it, I risk harming others. That's why you hide. Yes. Outside, voices filled the street as townspeople discussed what they had seen. They will come back, she said quietly. Then we'll be ready, Cade replied. For the first time, she turned toward him fully. You do not fear me? I've seen enough monsters to know you ain't one, he said simply. Something in her posture softened. That evening, as the sun set, the sky flickered again with distant lights. Larger this time, stronger, Cade stood beside her at the edge of town. More coming? He asked. Yes. The wind grew colder. They will not stop until they find me. He adjusted his hat, staring at the horizon. Then they'll have to go through Dustfall Ridge first. For a brief moment, she said nothing. Then she spoke softly. Thank you. Above them, a massive shadow moved silently among the stars, far larger than the earlier ships. And both of them understood that the real battle had not yet begun. Night settled slowly over Dustfall Ridge, but no one slept easily. The stars above looked different now. A massive shadow moved quietly between them, almost invisible unless someone looked carefully. It was far larger than any ship the settlers had ever seen. Sheriff Cade stood outside the town, watching the sky with narrowed eyes. Years of experience told him that whatever was coming would change everything. Behind him, settlers worked quickly to strengthen defenses. Old cowboy habits mixed with advanced technology. Laser fences were repaired, drones reprogrammed, and riders moved across the plains to warn nearby ranches. Mara stood at the edge of a hill, silent and still. The wind moved her coat gently, and the faint blue lines on her mask glowed brighter than before. They are closer, she said quietly. Cade walked beside her. How long? Not long. Her voice carried calm acceptance, but he sensed hidden tension. The town gathered in the central square. Some people looked at her with gratitude after she saved them during the raid. Others still watched with uncertainty. She brought this trouble, one man whispered. But she saved us, another replied. The town stood divided between fear and trust. Cade stepped forward. Listen up, he said firmly. Whatever is coming ain't just after her. They attacked us already. That makes this our fight too. His words brought some comfort, but fear still hung in the air. Later, inside the sheriff's office, Cade sat across from Mara. You said they won't stop until they find you, he said. Why are you so important? She remained silent for a long moment, as if deciding how much to reveal. Long ago, she began, there was a war between several star systems. I was created as part of a Guardian program. We were designed to protect worlds from advanced threats. Created? Cade asked gently. Yes, I was engineered, not born like others. My abilities come from alien energy systems merged with human biology. He nodded slowly, absorbing the information. After the war ended, many Guardians were hunted, she continued. Some believed we were too powerful to exist freely. And these attackers. They are collectors, she said. They capture powerful beings and use them to control ancient technology. Cade frowned. And they think you got the key. I do, she said softly. Before he could ask more, the alarm sounded again. The massive ship appeared above Dustfall Ridge, blocking part of the sky. Its dark surface reflected no light, making it feel like a hole in space itself. People ran outside, staring upward in shock. A deep humming sound filled the air. Smaller ships descended slowly, surrounding the town. They are here, Mara whispered. Defense drones launched immediately, forming a protective line. Cade rallied the settlers, positioning them carefully. No panic, he said loudly. Stay together. The first wave of attackers moved forward, walking with slow confidence. Their armor shone with cold blue light. One stepped forward and projected a holographic message into the air. Guardian unit identified, a mechanical voice announced. Surrender peacefully. Mara stepped forward. No, she said simply. The battle began. Blaster fire lit the night as settlers defended their home. Cowboy riders moved quickly across the battlefield, using terrain for cover. Drones fired overhead while energy shields flickered under pressure. Mara moved like flowing light, protecting people and disabling attackers without unnecessary harm. Her energy abilities shone brighter now, forming glowing patterns around her. Cade fought beside her, covering her blind spots. You ever think about retiring from trouble? He joked breathlessly. I tried, she replied. Despite their efforts, more enemies arrived. The massive ship above released waves of reinforcements. The town's defenses began to struggle. "They will overwhelm us," she said quietly. "Then we change the rules," Cade answered. He signaled for the remaining drones to concentrate fire, creating an opening. But suddenly a powerful beam struck near them, throwing both to the ground. The enemy commander stepped forward, taller and more advanced than the others. "Guardian," it said, "remove your mask and surrender." Mara stood slowly. "No." The commander raised its weapon. In that moment, Cade realized she was holding back. "You ain't using your full power," he said. "I cannot," she replied. "Without the mask, the energy may harm everyone." He looked around at the burning buildings, frightened settlers and incoming enemies. "And if you do," she hesitated. The commander fired again, forcing them apart. Cade shouted, "Trust yourself." Her hands trembled slightly. The mask glowed brighter. The enemy advanced. Around them, Dustfall Ridge fought desperately to survive. Mara closed her eyes behind the mask. "I wanted to live quietly," she whispered. Another explosion shook the ground. She turned toward Cade. "If I remove the mask, I may change forever." He met her gaze without fear. "You already saved this town. Whatever you are, you ain't alone anymore." The words settled deeply. She reached slowly toward the edge of her mask. The glowing lines across it intensified, forming spinning patterns. Energy built around her like rising wind. The attackers paused, sensing something changing. The sky above darkened as the massive ship prepared a final strike. Mara took a slow breath. Her fingers rested against the mask, and for the first time since arriving in Dustfall Ridge, she prepared to reveal what had been hidden all along. The battlefield of Dustfall Ridge burned under the dark sky. Fires flickered across damaged buildings, and the sound of distant explosions echoed through the valley. Settlers fought with courage, but the enemy numbers kept growing. Above them, the massive alien ship hung like a silent storm waiting to strike. Mara stood still at the center of the chaos. Her hand rested against the edge of her mask. The blue lines across its surface glowed brighter with every passing second, casting soft light across the ground. Energy gathered around her like a rising wind. Sheriff Cade watched closely, his heart beating fast. He trusted her, but even he did not know what would happen next. The enemy commander stepped forward, weapon raised. "Surrender," the mechanical voice said again. "Your resistance is meaningless." Mara did not answer. Instead, she took a slow breath. Memories filled her mind, the war, the loss of her husband, the fear of hurting innocent people. She had worn the mask for years not because she was ashamed of her face, but because she feared her own power. The settlers behind her watched in silence. Some were afraid, some were hopeful. Cade spoke quietly. "Whatever happens, we stand with you." She turned slightly toward him. Even through the mask, he felt her gratitude, then she made her decision. Slowly, carefully, she removed the mask. A soft flash of light spread outward as the device separated from her face. The people of Dustfall Ridge held their breath. What they saw was not ugliness. Her face was calm and strong, marked with faint, glowing patterns that moved like living light beneath her skin. The energy lines traced across her cheeks and forehead, shining gently like stars. There was power there, but also kindness. The glow was beautiful, not frightening. A quiet silence fell across the battlefield. The rumors that had followed her for years shattered in that moment. "She's not a monster," someone whispered. The enemy commander reacted immediately, raising its weapon. "Guardian power confirmed," it announced. Before it could fire, energy rose from Mara's body, forming a protective field around her. The air vibrated with strength, but it felt controlled, calm, guided by her will. Cade stepped back, shielding his eyes from the light. Mara lifted her hands slowly. "I will not go with you," she said clearly. Her voice carried across the battlefield, strong and steady. The attackers advanced anyway. Energy moved around her like flowing water, forming shields that blocked incoming fire. Each movement was precise. She avoided harming enemies unnecessarily, disabling their weapons instead of destroying them. The settlers watched in awe. Cowboy riders moved beside her, inspired by her courage. Drones followed her lead, attacking only when needed. The massive ship above prepared its main weapon, glowing brighter as it charged. Mara looked up. "If that fires," she said softly, "the town will not survive." Cade moved beside her again. "Then we stop it." She nodded. Gathering her strength, she focused upward. Energy flowed from her hands toward the sky, forming a beam of light that struck the ship's shield. The ground shook beneath their feet as power collided with power. The enemy commander tried to interrupt her, but Cade stepped forward, blocking its path. "This town ain't yours," he said firmly. They fought briefly, Cade using his experience and skill to hold the commander back long enough for Mara to continue. The energy beam intensified. For a moment, it seemed impossible. Then the ship's shield flickered. Cracks of light spread across its surface. With one final surge, Mara broke through the shield, sending a wave of energy that disabled the ship's weapons without destroying it. The massive vessel powered down slowly, drifting away from attack position. The remaining enemy forces hesitated. Without orders, they began retreating, returning to their ships and leaving the battlefield behind. Silence returned to Dustfall Ridge. The wind moved gently again, carrying away smoke and dust. Mara lowered her hands. The glowing energy faded slowly, leaving only faint patterns across her skin. She looked tired but peaceful. The settlers approached cautiously at first, then with growing warmth. "You saved us," one woman said. Others nodded. The same people who once whispered cruel rumors now looked at her with respect. Cade walked toward her, holding out the mask she had dropped earlier. "You don't have to hide anymore," he said. She looked at the mask for a long moment. "No," she said softly. She took it from him, but instead of wearing it again, she attached it to her belt. The town began repairing damage together. For the first time since she arrived, people spoke to her openly, asking her name instead of calling her the masked woman. "Mara," she said when they asked. Children approached her without fear, fascinated by the glowing patterns that now shone softly on her face. As the twin suns rose the next morning, Dustfall Ridge looked different, not because the buildings changed, but because the people did. They had learned that fear often came from misunderstanding, and that true strength sometimes hid behind silence. Later, Cade stood beside her at the edge of town, watching the endless plains. "What will you do now?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "For the first time in a long time, I will stay." He nodded, satisfied. Together they watched riders cross the horizon, the frontier alive again with hope. The masked widow was no longer a mystery or a rumor. She was simply part of the town, a guardian, a survivor, and someone finally free to live without hiding. And as the wind moved across Dustfall Ridge, carrying stories into the distance, one truth remained clear. Sometimes what people fear most is not ugliness, but the power and beauty they never took time to understand.